Antonio Morales stood at the threshold of Riverbend High School, his mop in one hand and a weary smile on his face. The early morning sun painted streaks of gold across the polished floors that reflected his humble heart. As the janitor of the school for nearly a decade, he had witnessed the world of the students change, from carefree laughter in the hallways to the fleeting moments of drama over text messages. Antonio found solace in cleaning up after them. It was a job not spattered with prestige but filled with purpose, a chance to contribute to the educational journey of the next generation. His humble uniform, a faded blue jumpsuit, was perpetually stained with bleach and the residual evidence of his tireless effort to keep the school tidy. Each scrub and sweep made him feel invisible yet essential, like a forgotten but welcoming corner of a room. Yet, as the months rolled by, Antonio's financial struggles pressed heavy on his heart. Every month was a challenge, each paycheck a balancing act. He often found himself staring at the bills stacked with grim determination, pausing only to dream of better times, recalling his younger days when life was a simpler, lighter load. Today, like any other, he began his routine with the same unwavering dedication. As the bell rang and the students flooded the hall like a tide of youthful energy, Antonio decided to begin in the library, where he found peace among the dust jackets and the scent of knowledge. The library was quieter than the other sections of the school. Here, the world seemed to slow down, and his spirits lifted. While organizing books on a wooden cart, he noticed something odd lying beneath a nearby table. Curiosity piqued, he bent down and discovered a worn leather wallet. It was swollen with age and looked as if it had seen more than a few summers. He instinctively reached for it, his heart racing at the thought of finding even a few spare coins inside, perhaps enough for a cup of coffee on alley evening when he returned home to his modest apartment. Opening the wallet, however, Antonio's breath caught in his throat. It was stuffed with crisp bills, enough cash to transform his life in ways he had only dared to dream. His first instinct, surprisingly, wasn't to pocket the cash, though the weight of the temptation hovered over him. He thought of Maria, his daughter, learning geometry for the very first time, her small brow furrowed in concentration. Only last week, he'd grimly explained the impossibility of signing her up for the school trip to the aquarium due to their dire finances. "Papa, I don't need it. I just want to be with my friends," she had said, her voice steady, but he felt the disappointment behind her brave smile. Motivated by her resilience and unyielding spirit, Antonio felt a surge of clarity wash over him. Instead of pocketing the cash that could ease their burdens, he made a decision calm yet powerful. He would find the wallet's owner and return it, no matter what it cost him in time and energy. His world may have often felt like a maze of hardship, but kindness was a thread that elegantly connected every twist and turn of his life. With purpose ignited in his heart, Antonio left the library, clutching the wallet. He navigated through the bustling hallways, each step resonating with the promise of better days. He sought out the office, where he'd find the principal or perhaps the secretary, someone who would know the owner of the wallet. Each face he passed reminded him of the youth swirling with possibilities, a life he wanted to help shape into something brighter. Amid the hum of chatter and laughter, there was a sense of urgency pulsating within him, the world around him a beautiful cacophony that faded into a distant murmur. His focus narrowed. Time stretched as he approached the office, his heart fluttering with the thrill of purpose. This was not just about returning lost money, it was about nurturing the values he held dear, about reinforcing the beauty of honesty in a world that could often feel so broken. As he stepped inside the office, he was met with the cheerful gaze of Ms. Johnson, the school secretary. Her desk was a mosaic of paperwork and a small plant struggling for life in a poorly lit corner. "Good morning, Antonio," she said, her voice bubbling with warmth. "What brings you in?" Without a moment's hesitation, he answered, "I found a wallet that belongs to a student. I'd like to return it." Her eyes widened in surprise, and he could see the warmth in her appreciation for his integrity. "That's so admirable, Antonio. I'll help you with that." With her assistance, they discovered it belonged to a sophomore named Jessica Thompson, a vibrant girl with aspirations as grand as the sky. As they made arrangements to reach her, Antonio's heart swelled. He thought about the ripple effect of his small act of kindness, how it could restore not just a wallet but also a sense of faith in goodness, a noble helping one another. Outside the office window, students rushed by, their lives intertwined with dreams and struggles not so different from his own. He felt a prick of hope surge through him. This compassionate choice would connect him to someone, perhaps even create a bridge to a life that transcended mere existence. Who knew? Maybe kindness, threaded through a worn wallet, might transform not just the lives of others but his own in ways he could not yet foresee. As Ms. Johnson contacted Jessica, the excitement building in Antonio made him fidget uneasily. He extinguished the initial joy bubbling up inside him, reminding himself that he wasn't doing this for praise or recognition. Nonetheless, the warmth flooding his heart was unmistakable. He could hardly believe that just moments before, he had been grappling with the weight of his financial struggles, and now found himself focused on the spirit of community and goodwill. No matter the reward, he murmured while waiting, feels right. Moments later, Jessica entered the office, her eyes scanning the room before meeting Antonio's. They sparkled with curiosity, but once she spotted her wallet in Antonio's hand, her face transformed into a radiant mix of disbelief and gratitude. "Mr. Turner." "Thank you," she exclaimed, rushing toward him as though she might collapse him in an enthusiastic hug. "I thought I had lost it forever." He sheepishly shrugged, the corners of his lips lifting. "I simply found it and thought you should have it back. It's yours." Her joy was contagious. She opened the wallet to find not only her newly crumpled cash but also a handful of crumpled receipts and her school ID. "You don't know how much this means to me. There are so many personal things in here I can't replace," she said, her voice cracking slightly with the emotion of realization. In that moment of connection, they both recognized that the wallet represented more than scattered bills, it symbolized trust, integrity, and hope. Jessica thanked him repeatedly, her enthusiasm so infectious that Ms. Johnson found herself smiling broadly. "You know, Antonio," she said, stepping forward, "you have a knack for creating ripples of positivity. I believe your kindness is not just a one-off." Pondering her words, Antonio felt his heart swell, almost bursting with the warmth radiating from the appreciation surrounding him. He brushed away their compliments with modesty. To him, kindness had always been instinctive, an innate part of who he was. However, what happened next would forge a connection that would move his life in an unprecedented direction. Suddenly, Jessica's interest had shifted. "If you're free later, I'd love to pay you back. I was thinking of getting my friends together for a fundraiser this weekend." Her eyes danced with ideas. "We could do a talent show to support families in need around Riverton. There are so many people struggling." Antonio nodded, impressed by her drive. With Noyat plans, he felt a spark of hope ignite. Perhaps this would be his chance to contribute more broadly, not just through cleaning but by inspiring youth to look beyond themselves. "You could really make a difference with that," Antonio said, injecting exuberance into his tone. "How can I help?" "Well, I have some ideas, but I can't do this without my father's permission. He helps organize community events. Could you come by my house later? I'll introduce you." While joy painted her face, Antonio hesitated momentarily, thinking of the effort it would require. However, her enthusiasm radiated a sense of possibility that he couldn't resist. "Sure, I'd be happy to help," he finally responded, feeling the electricity of new opportunities buzzing in the air. As the day melted into golden hues, Antonio found himself entering Jessica's home, his nerves fizzing like bubbles in a shaken soda. The mismatched furniture and colorful decor gave the house an inviting aura, and the scent of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, an inviting gesture from Jessica's mother. "Jessica, dear. Did you invite your friend?" her mother chimed, appearing in the doorway. "I've made those peanut butter cookies you like." "Mom, this is Mr. Turner. He helped me get my wallet back," Jessica proudly introduced. Antonio felt his cheeks flush as Mrs. Thompson clasped his hands in hers. Thank you, thank you. This is so lovely, you've restored my daughter's spirit. You must eat a cookie." Under the gentle touch of their hospitality, Antonio's initial hesitance melted away. They sat together at the kitchen table as Jessica rolled out ideas for the fundraiser. "What if we also held a bake sale alongside the talent show?" she suggested excitedly. And if you could help set things up, I could even get my father to mention it at the school's parent-teacher association meeting this week. Before they even mapped out the specifics, Antonio felt enmeshed in a wave of anticipation, visioning how their small initiative could create ripples of kindness throughout the community. They would spread word around school, and soon enough, he would help organize it at every corner of the neighborhood. Given my experience, I've organized several community cleanups before, Antonio shared, trying to reassure them about his capabilities. He worried about his age and lack of resources, yet Jessica absorbed his words like she would sunlight, shining with excitement. Within a week, preparations escalated. They created colorful flyers together, stretching paper across the kitchen table. Antonio watched Jessica and her mother enthusiastically write, doodle, and sketch out plans. A bond began to blossom among the three of them, fragile yet growing, as their laughter intermingled with scents of flour and sugar. Each day spent crafting the fundraiser solidified their connection, bouncing ideas back and forth, dreaming of larger possibilities. As the day of the show grew closer, Jessica's father, a supportive pillar in their endeavor, began posting on social media and activating the PTA's network. Within days, word spread like wildfire, Riverton's first community talent show and bake sale. Out of nowhere, offers flooded in. Local businesses pledged donations, talent poured from students eager to perform, and parents promised baked goods that far exceeded their wildest expectations. In the whirlwind of it all, Antonio found himself adopted into the family dynamic, accepting small gestures of kindness from the Thompsons, feeling welcomed and valued for the first time in years. The show arrived, a glorious celebration of talent and community spirit. That night, as the auditorium filled with families, Antonio worked diligently backstage. He watched the shimmering lights dance across the faces of students showcasing talent, from singing to juggling. He helpfully coordinated, ensuring every act was ready as laughter and applause filled there, drowning out the doubts that had previously clung to his mind. When the light dimmed between acts for intermission, chaos reigned backstage. Shouts echoed, and Antonio remained in spirit as he hustled with the excitement of it all. Soon, the crowd settled on stage as Jessica took the mic. She beamed brightly before the audience packed with proud parents and classmates. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We've raised money for families in need here in Riverton. I want to give a special thank you to Mr. Turner, she called out, her eyes shining solely on him, for believing in our cause. Emotion surged through him, while the audience applauded. Once the event drew to a close and the applause diminished, the final tally revealed the fundraiser had successfully amassed over $2,000. Antonio was not prepared for what would follow. When the time came to distribute the funds, Jessica's father mentioned rewarding a portion to Antonio for his contributions. You helped make this possible, Antonio, he explained, victory gleaming in his eyes. This is for you. Before Antonio could respond, he saw a stack of cash being handed over, exceeding $1,000. His breath snagged in his throat as emotions cascaded within him. He felt a knot of disbelief. For months, he had struggled against the tides, and in one beautiful instance of helping another, life had turned its wheel toward hope. I can't accept this, he stammered in astonishment. No, you must, Jessica insisted, determination lacing her voice. You made this happen. Every time we mentioned resources and connections, it was your influence guiding us. In that moment, he recognized the metamorphosis in his life, the beautiful kaleidoscope of the ripple effect of kindness invading their lives fully. To see their contagious enthusiasm had transformed a simple gesture into an entire evening of connection, thriving relationships and new dreams. Tears brimmed, not from sadness but from the sheer of hope cascading over him, a testament to the belief that light always finds a way. Within a week, Antonio felt himself standing taller across Riverton, buoyed by the friendships forged during the fundraiser. He returned home from the event, clutching the weight of the cash in his hand, knowing it would go towards securing better financial footing. And yet, as spring bloomed outside his window and sunlight glimmered across the walls of his small apartment, Antonio understood that beyond the dollars, true transformation lay in the way life could turn friendships into families and laughter into healing, a testament that kindness was indeed the most precious currency of them all. As the vibrant spring sun peeked through the worn curtains of Antonio's apartment, a renewed energy enveloped him. It had been a few weeks since the successful community fundraiser, and the echoes of laughter and clinking applause still tugged at his heart. With the funds he received, he felt both a sense of relief and a spark igniting within him, a renewed belief that perhaps life could be different. These days, he made a habit of waking up early to enjoy a cup of coffee while the world stirred awake, savoring that first sip as a quiet celebration of all that had changed. Buoyed by his recent experiences, he felt emboldened to take steps toward bettering his financial situation. The check from the fundraiser now rested safely in his savings account, a tangible cushion that reminded him of his worth and the impact of choosing kindness. Maria had noticed the change in their home, too. She was more animated, often complimenting her father for his newfound cheerfulness and confidence. "Dad," she began one chilly morning over breakfast, crossing her arms under her chin, "can we go on a little trip? Just you and me?" Antonio looked up from his bowl, the warmth of her enthusiasm igniting a swell of emotion. "Where do you want to go?" "Somewhere we've never been, like the lake. I heard it's suitable this time of year. Can we pack a picnic? Maybe I can even show off my new science projects." The thought of spending a day in nature with his daughter brought an infectious smile to his face. It was an opportunity to bond, to talk, to share dreams and laughter without the weight of bills sitting between them. "That sounds wonderful, Maria. Let's take a Saturday and make it a day to remember." As the weeks melted into one another, the bond between father and daughter deepened. They prepared together for their special day, shopping for snacks and crafting a makeshift kite that Maria had nagged him to make for ages. Each moment twisted into a joyful reminder of simpler times, an undercurrent flowing through their days as they laughed and shared stories. Neither of them wanted to dwell on the past, the struggles, the hardships, because a door had opened onto a brighter path paved with hope. Finally, the day arrived, an explosion of blue skies and radiant sunshine. Antonio loaded the picnic basket with sandwiches, fruit, and the proudly made kite, setting off toward the shimmering lake on the outskirts of their town. The air felt electric, alive with the laughter of families who had made similar plans. It was a space alive with melodies, children's giggles dancing atop cricket songs, birds flitting between trees, and soft whispers of wind carrying tales from the treetops. As they arrived at the lake, a sense of tranquility embraced them. They found a cozy spot under a large oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. The sun dappled the ground with gold, turning the grass into a patchwork quilt of light and shadow. Maria unpacked their lunch, the scents mingling in the air like the weaving of memories. "Look, Dad," she shouted, her eyes widening as she pointed toward a group of kids running along the shore, their laughter harmonizing with the splashes they made. "Can I fly the kite? Please?" "Of course," Antonio replied, unable to suppress the grin on his face. Together, they tied the string to the kite and watched it take flight. The bright colors splashed against the cerulean sky, soaring higher with each breath of wind. For Antonio, the sight felt spiritual, much like how his life had been lifted since he returned that wallet. That singular act had spiraled into opportunities, friendships, and a budding resilience that he felt cocooning him in warmth. As Maria reveled in the joy of controlling the kite, Antonio sat back and let his thoughts wander. Memories of the community fundraiser flooded his mind, how something as simple as an act of honesty had rippled outward, altering not only his existence but the lives of many others, too. He recalled the way Jessica's father had stood resolutely behind their efforts, how supportive the parents had been, and the satisfaction he felt in seeing the local families uplifted by the collective spirit pouring into the project. In the space of a moment, he realized that thefts of kindness he had laid had rebuilt the foundation of his family while extending outward to the community. Each connection nurtured had the potential to ignite further acts of goodwill, creating a chain reaction that would become an enduring legacy of hope. "Look at it go!" Maria shouted, tugging Antonio from his thoughts. "It's just like you, rise high, Dad. Like you always say, we can reach for the sky." Her innocent analogy struck a chord within him. He understood that they were not merely flying kites, they were reaching out to grasp the currents of life, taking chances, and embracing the possibilities waiting just beyond the horizon. Their afternoon flourished, laughter, snacks, and an impromptu science lesson as Maria excitedly discussed the physics of how the kite soared. The joyful moments crystallized, resting gently on Antonio's heart as it filled with gratitude. He reveled in Maria's happiness, soaking it in like the sun soaking the earth. Later, as the light began towed and the sky transformed into a tapestry of purples and oranges, they started to pack up. With the basket emptied and the kite slowly falling as the sun dipped below the horizon, a wave of contentment washed over him. "Can we do this again next month?" Maria asked, her eyes sparkling like the last remnants of daylight. "I love spending time with you. It's the best." Antonio enveloped her in a tight hug, feeling the world around them fade away from view. "Absolutely. Just let me know when, and we'll make it a tradition," he promised. The journey home was steeped in a profound silence, where the only sounds were the soft melodies of the evening. Antonio, however, felt a thunderstorm of ideas brewing within. Perhaps he could channel this newfound joy into further connections, create more opportunities to lend his hand where needed. Over the following weeks, inspired by Maria's enthusiasm, Antonio began volunteering for community events, not as a janitor but as an advocate for all charities. With every weekend spent engaging with families, helping organize new projects, or tutoring youth craving assistance, Antonio's passion began to flourish. People began to recognize him, not just as a man with a mop and broom, but as a community pillar, a willing participant shaping their futures. The extra income from his tutoring and side initiatives, paired with a reduced financial burden, provided him with a newfound sense of confidence. It was a continuous cycle. The more Antonio gave, the richer his life became, not merely in dollars but in connections, friendships, and purpose. The challenges hadn't vanished, yet resilience took root, and he weathered every storm that came his way, thankful for the gust of fresh air reminding him of his worth. One clear summer afternoon, while seated alongside a pine tree, Antonio received a message from Jessica inviting him to another community gathering, a celebration for families who had benefited from the initiatives he had supported. She expressed her gratitude for all he had done and wanted him to know he was needed once more. When he arrived at the gathering, a gentle breeze caressed the evening, and the warmth of camaraderie filled the air. Antonio saw familiar faces lit by joy, thankful for what they had achieved. Together, each act of kindness had sown seeds of hope, providing relief to families struggling to cope. As he entered the tent filled with families, Jessica waved him over. "We wanted to honor those who have made a difference," she announced, her face beaming. With heartfelt words, she explained how Antonio's simple act of returning the wallet had catalyzed a wave of change that had now enriched their entire community. When they presented him with a framed certificate adorned with children's drawings and notes of thanks, Antonio felt tears sting his eyes. "Thank you for believing in us and leading by example," she finished, her voice thick with emotion. Antonio took a deep, overwhelmed by the shared experience, the understanding that kindness has an unbreakable bond far beyond the initial moment. "No thanks needed, it's a pleasure to be a part of this," he said, blinking away the blurriness, making sure to hold on to every precious moment. If anything, the past months had taught him that riches were not confined to what one held in their hands. Wealth was in connections, it was in the laughter of children, the embrace of community, and the spirited allyship woven through shared goals and aspirations. As the night wore on, the gratitude centered around the shared experiences felt palpable, enveloping him like a warm embrace. He realized how far he'd come, not just in circumstances but also in the flourishing person that resided within him. A father, a mentor, a confidant, he was no longer merely a janitor in the shadows, but a vital part of something larger than himself. Under the stars that shimmered above, Antonio knew his journey was far from but welcomed with hope and excitement rather than fear. By gripping kindness and weaving bonds within the tapestry of their lives, he could reshape not only his own future but ensure that those around him would thrive in the richness of community and shared goals. His heart full, he embraced the night, a father who learned that in giving, he had truly received.